Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me here on Shooting the Shelf. My name is Jesse Arnold, and I have a very special guest tonight. Um, but first, I just want to say thank you all for joining me here, whether you're watching it live or on the replay. Really appreciate it. Feel free to hit us up with some comments during the chat here, and we'll check them from time to time. What's up, Lucky Charms? Hello, Maverick. Um, and I would just like to say I don't need to give a huge introduction because I think anybody watching this knows exactly who this gentleman I'm about to bring on is. So without further ado, I have the distinct privilege to welcome the man who has the distinct privilege of being the director of sales and marketing for Four Horsemen Studios. Give a warm digital welcome to Mr. Jeremy Girard.
Hey, Jesse. Hey, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening.
Thank you for joining me. It's been looking forward to this.
Absolutely, me as well. Me as well. Somehow, with all of the road to LegionsCon shows, I've not been invited to any of them. Probably because I have my own show. But so you invited me on this one, and I was thrilled to be able to spend some time talking about LegionsCon and everything else. Anything else you want to talk about?
Excellent, excellent. Well, I know a lot of folks watching are probably pretty familiar with your story. If you want to do a quick recap of what you do or how you got into all of this.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been a toy collector for many, many years, 30 years or whatever. Been collecting product from Four Horsemen since the Spawn days, the McFarlane Toys days. Huge supporter of the Legions lines, was a backer for that very first Kickstarter, was a backer for the Gothtropolis Kickstarter. Actually went to the studio for the first time for intern for a day back in 2019. The reward that I did for that was during the Advent of Decay Kickstarter, and they knew who I was. They had seen my custom work. I started customizing Mythic Legions. I had done a little bit of customizing before Mythic Legions, but really dove heavy in with that first wave. So when I went to the studio, they knew who I was. They knew my work. And they invited me back about a month later to bring some of my customs for the very first G-Con broadcast. And, that started kind of a relationship and a conversation. A year after that, I was invited back to the second G-Con. And at that point, I just started talking to them about what it was that I do. When they found out I was in marketing and web design, they enlisted me to redo their website. And that started my formal working relationship with them. Did that for a few years, and anyone who kind of was been around at that time, they saw my involvement grow, through the broadcasts and stuff like that, and then through LegionsCon. And then this past year, back in March, I started full time with the company as their first ever director of sales and marketing. So I genuinely am living my best life. Went from being an absolute super fan of the line to being, a full-time member of the team that, gets to help bring this awesome line, these awesome lines, because there's more than one, of course, to the fan base. So incredibly cool. That's my story.
Yeah, that's very cool. And you are still a super fan. I know I've seen you multiple times saying that working for them has not diminished the excitement. You just have to hold it in until you can share it with everybody.
Yeah, it's a different kind of excitement. It's like when everyone asks me if it's diminished, there's still a point where I see it for the first time. It's just like I see it for the first time earlier than everybody else does. But now I not only see it and get blown away, but I can actually offer, feedback and suggestions, and I can help be part of the process that refines that initial piece that I'm seeing. And I get to help plan out how we're going to roll this out to everybody else, which is super cool. Because, anybody that's got kids or it doesn't have to have kids, anybody that's ever bought a gift for anybody, the idea of getting them something and being super excited about it and then giving it to them and seeing their reaction, that's a huge part of what I do. is being able to see these awesome things and figure out what's going to be the most impactful way to show this to the fan base so they really get the most excitement out of it. I mean, yes, I'm still a super fan, and that takes it to a different level.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, I really didn't get into it until LegionsCon last year. So I mean, most of the stuff I've been seeing since I've been has been um the way you've been rolling them out. So I know for what I'm enjoying all of it. I know a lot of people said that the All Stars 5+ was different this year, but I really enjoyed that. I liked the way they were rolled out slowly. I liked the voting process. Granted, I had, like I said, I had no predetermined
Sure.
idea of what it was going to be like. I was like, we get to vote for figures. That's
Yeah.
cool, no matter how you slice it. So,
All Stars is funny because people got all worked up that it was different, but it was like it was the fifth All Stars wave, and only 3 and 4 were done the way they were talking about. 1 and 2 were totally different. So it's everything changes. You've got to,
sure.
that's a big part of what we're trying to do is, look at the things we've done and consistently say, how can we do it better? And this was an opportunity for us, with the additional figures, with involving the fan community to try to do something that we thought would be, more impactful for that wave. But yeah, I do remember actually you being at LegionsCon last year and having just started kind of dipping your toes into the water and being, really excited for the community aspect that you saw there.
Yeah, walking into that convention, which we'll get more into the con in a minute, but like walking into that, like I had no idea what to expect, and um, just like we were talking before the show, the sheer amount of talent and creativity that was there, and most of it was just for display. And the art exhibit of it all was in the best way overwhelming, and just how everybody was talking. And like I knew your name, I knew Nikki Nicole's name, and I knew of a couple of the shop names because I was starting to look at custom pieces. But I walked in there like a total goon, not knowing who anybody was. Just Sean was talking up people, and
Mhm.
like I have no idea who these people are. It was like the weirdest. Looking back now, I feel kind of like an idiot. Just like you know, um, but yeah, it was really fun. And when we were driving home that Sunday, I was like, I need to be a part of this. And it's just been
It's like nothing else out there. I mean, literally, like I said, I've been collecting for 30 something years. Legions is my main collecting focus at this time. But over the years, I've collected pretty much any line that you can name. I've collected at one point or another, and I still have a lot of it. I've been in a lot of different toy communities. I've been to different cons and stuff. And there's a lot of great communities out there. There's a lot of great shows out there. Not taking anything away from them, but there is something special about the Legions community. There is just something amazing about what we have here with the Cabal, with the Legions community, with LegionsCon. It's like nothing else out there. And once you get involved in it and once you jump in feet first and really start to contribute to the community, it's absolutely incredible.
yeah it yeah it's unlike anything I've experienced. I've been in a couple other groups, and none of them have made me want to be a part of them as much as this has. And that a huge part of that goes to the toys and the horsemen themselves,
Yeah.
just the way they are, getting to hang out with them at PowerCon a little bit. um it's just they're just down to earth guys,
Yeah.
and that's just
They are some of the most unassuming, humble people you will ever meet. I mean, my favorite story is if you've ever heard Len LaGuardia from Wolfgang Customs talk about the first time that he met the horseman. He met him at ZoloCon and he walked up and he spent a while, had no idea what Legions was, spent a while talking to just some guy at the table and had no idea that it was Eric Treadaway. This is the dude that is, not only sculpted this entire line, but has sculpted and been a part of so many toys and toy lines over the years. I say to people all the time, you would be blown away if you knew the amount of work they did. Corn Boy is working on a definitive list of all of the figures Four Horsemen Studios has been involved in. I think it's something like 45 pages long.
Oh, wow.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane how much it is, because they've been involved with so many things over the years. I mean, there are things that I have in my collection that I didn't even realize they did until I started working there and started, doing content for the website. And I was like, you guys did that? Let me write an article about it. But yeah, they're so humble, and it starts. I say it all the time. The community is great because it starts at the top. It starts with how the Horsemen, and quite literally everyone in the studio, everyone in that studio are fans themselves. They're so accessible, and they just love to be around the people that are part of this community. Even George, despite the T-shirt you are wearing, he may hate fun, but he loves the community.
I definitely did not get the George hate fun when I got to spend a little bit of time with him at PowerCon. I remember asked if I could take a picture with him, and he was like, "With me?" I was like, "Yeah, why not?" No, it was yeah, it's just been cool because I did ZoloCon, then PowerCon, RetroCon, and now this.
Yep.
After LegionsCon last year. It's like, all right, am I turning into a deadhead for the Legions?
That's cool. I mean, I know we're going to talk about LegionsCon. PowerCon was so much fun, and it really got me like pumped up for LegionsCon. And not for nothing, like part of my goal is for all of us that went to PowerCon to go to LegionsCon and walk away just saying like, PowerCon was awesome, but it does not hold a candle.
Oh yeah.
As much as I love PowerCon, it was a great experience. But my marching orders is I want this to be many times better.
PowerCon is for Legions is the it's the caffeine free version. A lot of the flavor, but not all of the kick. So
there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool going to RetroCon. It was weird not having you there because everything I've been to, you have been there, and I know you were missing out.
I was.
But Sean got to go with me, so it was cool to get him in on some of the stuff that we got to experience at PowerCon with the guys and everything. So that was really cool to just go and hang out. Now that we know that that's how these shows work. So, speaking of shows, I'll backtrack a little bit here, bring up some pictures. Unless you, I got some pictures of your new 4 customs.
Yeah.
Or 4, is it 4K customs or 4 customs?
I just call them 4 customs.
Okay. And these just were available at Legion Shop on Friday.
Yeah, we put them up on Friday. So we wanted to do just kind of a little pre-LegionsCon sale. It's tough because so many people are saving their dollars for LegionsCon right now, but not everyone's going to LegionsCon, and the ability to buy something and maybe not have to bring it back with you, whatever. There's advantages to that. We have too much to bring to the show, so it made sense. We've been sitting on these for a little while. So this was this idea of doing like a full kit of parts, because a lot of creators have done kits, right? I've done kits where it's certain group of parts meant to make a specific character. You can use it for anything you want, but there's kind of a vision to what you can do with it. But we've never seen anybody offer the base figure with it as well. So that was the idea. Joe Viteri, my partner, who I run LegionsCon with, and who also is the owner of Legion Shop, he had come and he had said, hey, I think it'd be really cool if we did this kit type idea, because he's an approved retailer with Four Horsemen Studios. He, has access to the figures. So it was his idea to do this kit type thing. Where I came in was figuring out what those kits would be. So looking at deluxe Legion builders and kind of saying like, okay, what would be like, which of those figures would lend themselves to a cool, kit type approach. And this was the first one that we came up with using the deluxe Gladiator kind of doing like a very Egyptian theme type character here. So this was something that I had, gotten some reference materials, done some sketches and everything, and worked like I do with so much of my projects, or so many of my projects. Worked with Walter DeMarco of Mass Customs. He did all the sculpting on the head, the shoulder armor. Those are two separate pieces, the sword and the shield. And then worked with Strupp Family Crafts to do that skirt type piece there. And then what we did was we sold them both as an unpainted kit where you get all the pieces plus the base figure and you can make your own, or we sold them fully assembled right like this.
When I saw the posts or the email or whatever saying that it came with the full figure and the custom pieces, I was like, I had to read that a couple times. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, what? That I thought that was really cool. And
Because you
this
hear
looked
so many people say that, like, oh, this is really cool, but I don't have a base figure to put it on. So this really was meant to be. I mean, it was kind of like the idea of like getting a model kit, right? Where
Mhm.
it's not like you buy the model kit and you're like, okay, well, I need to get other pieces to make the model. Like, you want everything in the box to make what you want to make that picture on the front. So that was the idea here, was to do a full top to bottom kit where you get everything figure included.
That's yeah, and it's like I think that's a great idea because every time I would get pieces for customs, I want to like, oh man, I'm out of dwarves,
Yeah,
like, or I'm out of this. So like having it come together, um, and for folks who don't paint, well, even I mean, I like painting, but I don't necessarily want to paint everything I have.
sure.
Getting something like this where it's complete and ready to go is just really cool.
And the
And
paint job on this, I should point out. So Zombie 13 did this paint application. And he absolutely killed it. He is an amazing, amazing talent. Um, Even though you may be able to paint stuff, I know that I have work from a lot of different artists in my collection. I have a number of things from Zombie. I've known Zombie for a very long time. So having him do this set was super, super cool. And I'm not gonna lie, I took one for myself.
yeah, and that's another thing. Like getting parts, or whether it's a full figure or pieces from different people in the community is a really cool thing because then you can just like, oh well, there's I got the white kitsune head from you
Yep,
last year, and I got an ogre orc from Nikki Nicole Cheney's table. So it's just cool to get different
sure,
things to have the different people.
it is.
Um, and then up next is the Arctic Explorer one, which is also really cool.
Yeah, so and this one's crazy. This has been I had the prototype of this on my table at ToyCon last May. So that's how long it took for this thing to come out. When I originally created this, it wasn't part of these four customs kits. I just wanted to do an Arctic Dwarf Explorer. And originally, he actually had like lower legs and he had like more pieces to him in the original build. So I had shown this on my table, on the Legion shop table at ToyCon, and then when Deluxe Legion Builders got shown, I realized that, oh, that's going to be the perfect base body. Because again, originally I was thinking the Silver Dwarf Legion Builder, but those are hard to
Mm.
come by these days, right? So the fact that this figure was coming out, that's why we held it back as long as we did. Scaled it down a little bit because the more, I mean, at the end of the day, the more pieces you include, the more expensive it's going to be. So we scaled it back a little bit, but it's got that dwarf head. It's got like a wired scarf, those two ice axes, and those snowshoes. And this is something where I sketched all this out, gave it to Walter. He sculpted it. And I remember as a kid, one of my favorite G.I. Joes was Snow Serpent. And Snow Serpent had just like these awesome snowshoes. So like I totally was like scratching that nostalgic itch by putting snowshoes on this figure. It was just I got it in my head and I wanted to do it, and this was the way it came out.
No, that's great. I didn't have him. I think I had a friend that had oh, I forget which character it was, but it had the skis.
That's Snow Job.
Okay, yeah, And as soon as I saw those, that's what it made me think of. Yeah.
Yeah, Snow Serpent was one of the Cobras, and he legitimately had like tennis racket style like snowshoes that just plugged in the bottom of his feet. And I always just thought it was super cool. I don't know, I've always liked the snow Arctic type characters, so he was one
Sure.
of my favorites growing up. And yeah, I mean that's being able to do this stuff, not for nothing. I mean, this is living a childhood dream, being able to like be inspired by that stuff and those memories and do something new and modern with it. Super cool. That one there, I will say, David Williams painted the head on those, and I actually painted the ice axes and snowshoes.
Okay. Well, very cool. I will definitely be checking those kits out when I get to the show.
Yeah, we will have a couple unpainted kits at the show for sale, and we sold out of both the dwarf and the soldier of Ra painted sets on Legion Shop, but we actually held a couple back of each to bring to Legion's Con.
Oh,
So
nice.
if you get to the Legion Shop table early, there will be a few of those available.
Okay. Let's check some comments real quick.
Yeah.
Maverick, if he's asking if he know what kind of paint Zombie used. Looks
I
like
do
army
not
paint.
actually know what Zombie uses. Zombie's been in it for so long that I guarantee you he's just got a range of different paints. But weirdly enough, I've never asked Zombie what his preferred paint brand is.
Okay.
Zombie's also he's a mixer. Like he he's very very good at like paint matching. He doesn't My understanding is he doesn't do a lot of just right out of the bottle paints. He's got his own formulas, and he's very much a tinkerer when it comes to that stuff. Because I mean, I've sent him stuff to paint match, and it comes back and it's darn flawless. And I know
Oh,
he didn't get that out of a bottle. I know that he mixed that himself through trial and error.
very cool. Going back a little bit, another Maverick question. Biggest hope from GCon and Legions Con is finding out there's a D&D compatible roleplay book in the works since they did show those minis a while back.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it'd be cool. It's been something that's been requested quite a few times. A bunch of us are fans of Dungeons and Dragons. I don't play actively today. I do have a campaign going with my family, but we don't play. We haven't played in a while. But I mean, I've said before that Dungeons and Dragons is one of my nostalgic touch points for Mythic Legion. So definitely would be cool.
nice. Yeah, Jacob's echoing that roleplay book would be insane. Absolutely. Yeah. I've only been to D&D for about 7 or 8 years, and we're still finishing up that first campaign I joined in on. Our DM is letting us wrap up some kind of like closing stories instead of making us say goodbye to the characters as soon as we
Sure.
finish the big bad. So
Yep.
we're on our last one now. It's gonna be hard to say goodbye to these characters. um, Speaking of D&D, did you see all the Hasbro
I did.
figures? Do you have any interest in the animated ones or
Not in the
the mech
slightest.
ones?
Not in the slightest. It's funny. I mean, I say that I'm being flippant. So huge Dungeons and Dragons fan, but my connection to Dungeons and Dragons is number one the game. So playing Dungeons and Dragons was very much where I started. I also loved the LJN toy line. So the toys that NEC is doing, like the modern versions of the old LJN toys, is way more my speed
Okay.
than Hasbro's cartoon. I saw the cartoon growing up, but the cartoon always bothered me because I was always waiting for the character, like the toy line characters, or even more stuff from the role playing game to come more into the cartoon. So that that doesn't have a whole lot of nostalgia for me. And the super animated type figures, I clearly am not going to display it with my legions and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I mean, they're cool for what they are. They're done very, very well, but personally is not for me.
Yeah, same. I was not allowed to watch the cartoon as a kid, so
Mhm.
I remember seeing it and wishing I could watch it. So there's a little bit of like missed out nostalgia there. But because I wasn't allowed to, like growing up, D&D was like off to the side, and anytime I read a comic and there was the ad for it, I'm like, oh, flip the page, I don't even want to look at it. So yeah, I don't have an attachment to them, but it was cool. But again, with the way they're doing their packaging and everything, it's I will say those are the coolest looking packages I think Hasbro has debuted with their new plasticless stuff. But that's a whole nother can of worms for for someone else to deal with. And this was something I was going to ask. I know you're probably very limited on what you can say about it, but the upcoming book that you keep referencing.
So the question is there any info on the book? Not that I will announce tonight.
Okay. Fair enough. I did have a question. You were saying being a part of the student, everything, you get to help contribute to the creation and like the early stages, like how much of this comes straight from Eric? How much of it is it group? Like, is there certain things he's like, no, this is what it is, or is it always a little bit of a give and take with everybody?
What aspect?
For like the creation of the characters or the designs or just the overall story of the world, again, without having to divulge specific details.
It's definitely a group effort, but it starts with Eric. So much of the Legions universe is the brainchild of Eric. So, he's creating the characters, he's formulating the story, but Eric's like with the two other, founders, Jim and Cornboy, they've worked together for so long that they have like a seamless camaraderie together. So rarely does anything get decided that they don't all look at and say, yeah, that's cool. So there's definitely that. When it comes to the characters themselves, Eric's creating the look of them. But there's input on different things, like for instance, All Stars 5. So the way All Stars 5 happened, the way that was built was we allowed the vote to happen first. So we knew who the winners were, because we knew we were going to put in a bunch of other figures, but we wanted to see who won so we could decide what we actually put in. For instance, Silverhorn Sentry didn't win. If he had won, we might have made different decisions on Xylernian Guard because they would have been remarkably similar. So that was the first thing. Once we knew who the winners were, we had all these parts that we knew were already tooled. We could totally use them without having to wait for tooling, but they had never been seen. So we put all of that stuff out on the table and basically started combining parts. Like Eric was like, hey, I want to use this head for this type of character. And then we talked about what the build will look like. Well, what other parts can we use on that character? So that's a group effort. Like there was a couple of us there that were talking about that and coming up with those ideas. Actually, I wrote all the bios for All Stars 5, but I did it with Eric. Like we sat down and we talked through each character and at a high level what they should be. And then I go back and I flesh some of that out and I write the actual story and I write the bio, and we go back and make sure that things look good. So I've been doing a lot more of that, which is cool because I love the creative aspect of it. And, when I took the role of sales and marketing, I didn't know that I would get to be doing as much of the creative that I am getting to do. And I love it. I love being able to do that. So it is very much a group effort. But like I said, it starts with Eric. He's got a very specific plan for these characters. And it's a plan, I should say, that started at the very beginning of Mythic Legions. Like the arc that we're on right now, the Rise of the Dark Four, everything that we're seeing, Eric knew from day one this was what was going to happen. Now there are characters that have been introduced that weren't part of Eric's original plan. Back to All Stars 5, Lady Averona or Duban. those are not major characters. Those are not characters that he, came up with right from the beginning and knew the role that they had to play. They're characters that have been introduced over time that we work into the narrative. So there are a number of major characters that have been introduced that have very important storylines and have to accomplish certain things in the narrative. And that has been ongoing throughout as we go through this first story arc.
It's very cool. Yeah, I know people like my friend Matthew Dooch, was all
Mhm.
saying that there's no story, which we all know is not what he meant. But yeah, as I've gotten into the characters and reading the bios and how there's usually at least one or two connections to other characters or other factions or whatever in the bios, is like,
Mhm.
because I got Malleus at LegionsCon.
Yep.
And then I was like, I read his bio. I was like, oh, siblings. And then I got someone had a mandibulus. I think
Mhm.
Ariel Brennan had him at the table going up to the
Yeah.
exclusive table. So I got him, and then I'm like, now I got to get a Morgulith. I got to have the three kids that are still around. So it's just like,
Yep.
it was just great. And the more I read all those, it's a lot of fun learning all that stuff. So when you started teasing stuff about the book, that got me really excited, because as much as I love the openness and how much everybody can customize their own world within Mythos, I, like, I love having that base
Sure.
background, and with the
Yeah.
little things with the game that they've released so far, and um, yeah, which
And that's
congrats.
what's kind of cool about the game. I mean, because the game, all of the things that are happening, and like the game is part of everything. So like there are things going on that I have to talk to the game team to make sure that things are in sync. And the cool thing about the game is there are major events that happen in the story of Mythic Legions. An example is the coronation of Artemis Silvercord. That is not a secret. That is not a surprise. We've seen photos from the game of her being crowned. It's People know that's an event that happens in Mythic Legions. That event in the game, you will see that event happen, and then the fallout of that and the things that happen around the coronation sets you off on these like side adventures. So
Okay.
like in the game, you're not playing Artemis, you're not playing Gorgo, you're not the major characters. You are seeing what they're doing, and then you are on these side adventures. So that's one of the things that I think is really cool about Mythic Legions is it can be both. It can have a definitive story, it can have a linear narrative that we can present and people can follow, but at the same time, it's a giant realm. There's a lot of stuff out there to have that white space for creators like you and I to build these characters and say that, hey, this is tried from this northern, plains up in Xylerna that no one's ever heard of yet. We can do that, and there's space within the realm for that kind of contribution.
Yeah. That's really cool. And that's when I learned that that was the game where you're playing like the character that you can make is
Yep.
not one of the actual, you're not playing like Luke Skywalker
Yep.
or, whatever. You're not playing in a fully established character. I just think that's really cool, because then you can see what's going on and, experience those things without having to play the role of Artemis bearing the weight of being crowned and all that stuff. You just get to be, and that's really cool. I can't wait to see.
I mean, it makes sense too narratively because if you're playing Artemis, you may make her do things that she's not supposed to do. So it's that combination of because the game team is working very closely with the studio, but they're doing their own thing. Like there's a lot of leeway that they have to create this game and create this story within the framework. So if they were allowed to use all the major characters in a playable way, that could diverge from the bigger picture narrative that Eric has had in mind. So this was a great way to do both, to have them in the game, to not just like say, no, we're not going to show any of them. This is just totally different characters. in a different side of mythos that they don't interact with any of the others. We didn't want to go to that extreme. This seems to be a nice happy medium where you're still seeing characters you're familiar with without having them do things that run contrary to what the story would be. Because we don't want there to be brand confusion where people are like, well, in the game, Artemis did this. And we're like, well, yeah, but for real, she did this.
So the goal is to keep the game, as you were saying, it is part of it, as canon as possible
Yep.
to the established lore and everything.
Yeah, because the adventures you're going to go on, they're side quests. They're not, they're not going to be, they're not going to impact the overall story arc that for the Rise of the Dark 4. They're going to
Okay.
be one of the many, many stories that would have taken place during this time. So all of those major events are happening. The impact of them will impact what happens to you in the game and stuff, but you're not necessarily doing them.
I really like that. It's kind of like with my first thought is like what they did with Rogue One and now with Andor, without spoiling for anyone who hasn't watched it, they're filling in spaces around the
Yep.
major heroes, which as much as I love Luke and Han and all that, I really like the grounded kind of normal person level that Andor's been doing. And it's still exciting and fully engaging, except for Curtis. He falls asleep, I think, every time he starts watching an episode.
So it's funny. I remember years ago, and they still exist, but I read them years ago. There was a series of Star Wars books called the Tales books, like Tales of the Bounty Hunters, Tales of Jabba's Palace, Tales of the Mos Eisley Cantina. Those are the first three that came out. And they were great because if you take like the Mos Eisley Cantina, there are all these wacky aliens in there that you see for like a second. They made action figures of them, but like nobody knew the story of, Hammerhead, Momon Adon. Like, who the heck is he? Why is he there? And these books were great because they went into detail about that character's story. And then what happened in the cantina that's the center point. Like every one of these little stories involves at some point how they got to the cantina and then seeing, the doctor and Ponda Baba give Ben and Luke trouble. Ben cuts off his arm, and like it's everyone sees that, and it's like, okay, that's what connects all these stories. But it's great because everything that they do, all of their stories, don't change the story. They don't change the major story. You're just seeing these other facets. To me, that's how the game's going to work, at fleshing out these other stories without actually changing the main one.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's very exciting. Yeah, and you, sorry, my next question was going to be about the writing, and you already talked about all. I was going to ask how much you got involved with the writing and creative, because that, I like to write myself, so that's cool to see that you get to be that involved with writing all that stuff. I knew you did this stuff for the website and everything. So I believe I saw the Alder is getting a bio, correct? At some point?
Alder?
Yeah.
So we'll probably write something at some point. When we put on the website coming soon, that's our way of just saying we don't have one at this point. I will say this, that traditionally the horses have never had bios, nor have Legion builders, right? I hate that. I'm like, those packages are opportunities to put more story out there, to put more lore. It's a missed opportunity to not say something. And it's why Boreas from All Stars 5 is the first horse that has a bio, because I didn't want him not to have a bio. I was writing them and I'm like, I'm going to write this darn horse bio. So going forward, we are going to.
Okay.
Unless they tell me I can't, I'm going to put a damn bio on every package I can.
Awesome.
So we will see them going forward. Will we go back and do all those other ones? That's a good idea.
I mean, at least at this point, like with the Dark Four, like their horses, it would be cool to see more about them, especially like the what seems to be the origin of their namesake from actual mythology. Um, I guess we'll wait to see if that holds true for the last one.
Sure. I
But
mean, Alder, I will say this. We do have a little bit of Alder's story in the bio. I believe it's for Afarius, where it talks about, because if you just get Alder, you don't know like who the character is or whose mount it actually is, and it's Artemis's
mhm,
actual speed. And the bio for Afarius, I believe, mentions that he's the stable master for the Harvest Court, and he presents Alder to Artemis. So there is some information out there. It just wasn't presented on his box. So
yeah,
there's already nuggets of story that could be taken to write him a formal bio.
and that was one of the things that got me intrigued about the Alder had said, coming soon or whatever, because it was it just seems like he's a moose. It's a very unique mount. So it just seemed like it's like, oh, okay, what's the story? Because I've never seen a moose as, there's that big elk or whatever in The Hobbit,
Yep.
but like a moose is different. I had my sister lived in Alaska, so I heard stories about moose all the time. Um, so I was just like, this is really cool. I want what's the story? Like, what's his? Because mounts are such a big part of the types of stories I like to read. You've got like Shadowfax in Lord of the Rings. It's not a lot of information, but it just gives that something a little bit extra that takes
Sure.
it from like Brown Horse number 4 or whatever.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's the the mount can definitely play an important role. I mean, I remember growing up, the one that I always think about is Never Ending Story, and
Oh yeah.
seeing Atreyu and Artex and that
Oh
whole scene with Artex, like it's like, oh my goodness, and that was an important character, and that was a moment to, really pull at the heartstrings by taking that pair of those two and tearing them apart. So yeah, I mean, narratively, you can do a ton with those types of characters.
yeah. I mean, I'm listening to the Drizzt books for the first time right now. Between Danny and Travis talking about them, so I'm listening to those, and I know Guinevere's not a mount, but just the the,
Same,
the
yeah,
animal companions,
yep,
how important that character is
yep,
to
yep.
Drizzt, and yeah. So whether they get retroactive bios or not, I'll fill in the blanks myself until then. But yeah, with that little bit about Afarius and Alder, and I believe Afarius trained Alder at the request of Bardric for Artemis, because I think they were kind of all tied in on that bio, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
I mean, a lot of, and that's one of the things Eric did with the Alithia wave, was really try to tie those Alithia characters in, not excuse me, the Xylona's flock characters in together, to make them members of this harvest court. So Lord Bardric, Afarius, Krotos, they're all members of this kind of like subgroup, the harvest court. That's why a lot of similar colors, a lot of similar motifs in the design and everything. And it does say that he trained Alder, and it was presented as a gift to Queen Artemis.
Yeah, that's very cool. Okay. And now I'm just thinking ahead now to intern for a day and GCon and all the stuff we're gonna find out there, which I cannot wait for. Um, but I know you can't really talk about any of that other than how excited you are for everybody
I can
to see.
talk about the event. I can't talk about what's going to be revealed there. I mean,
No, of course, of course.
I can tell everybody that they are not ready for the Necronominus wave. Like, literally, there are points where like I've seen stuff, Eric's shown me stuff, and I like will audibly laugh. Like, because it's so much emotion that it just expresses itself as you just laugh.
Yeah,
I'm just like, because I'm just thinking about like, oh my goodness, being able to share this with people and thinking about the reaction. And again, I want all of them. Like everything he sees, he shows me. I'm already thinking. Like part of my brain is thinking, how are we going to present this fans are going to love this. And the other part of me is saying, like, how many do I need? Like, okay, what customs can I do? And I'm going to do this. So it's crazy. But yeah, it's going to be an absolute blast. As you said, you're coming to the entire Mythic weekend. You get the whole experience, intern for a day, G-Con, and then LegionsCon. So it is.
Yeah.
I've long said intern has a very special place in my heart. So the fact that I now get to welcome people to intern for a day is an incredibly cool experience for me.
I wasn't really aware of it as a thing until the game group did it for back in the spring.
Yep.
And I think I did one of the posts, so many people were posting, and then Sean got to go, and I was really excited, and he wasn't sure. He didn't tell Matt and I that he got to go, because he was told not to tell anybody about it. So kudos to him for not saying anything. But yeah, Matt and I saw him in the pictures that Saturday or whatever day that was. That morning, we're like, wait, he's there. He didn't tell us. And we were like, oh, he probably wasn't allowed to tell us. So yeah, it was just really cool. So once he got to go, I was like, oh man, I've got to do this. And
yeah, you're gonna have an absolute blast.
So when I saw the lottery, I was like, oh no, like I never win stuff. And then I got the email. I was like, oh, I won something. So yeah, I'm real excited for that. And the G-Con, just all of it. I know I'm going to be completely overwhelmed going into it. Again.
Well, I tell everybody, because like in April when we did it, Melissa Somerville was there, and in talking about her experience, she's talked about how it was overwhelming, and she mentions that she never actually met the horsemen. They were all there. I mean, they were literally in the same room with her. And I think it was mostly just being overwhelmed and being shy, like not wanting to go up and actually introduce yourself and start a conversation. Now, you've obviously met the horsemen. You mentioned that you hung out with all of us at PowerCon. After PowerCon, a bunch of us went and hung out in the hotel lobby and were, up till very, very late. I believe you went out to dinner with everybody one of the nights. So you don't have that level of like being shy and not wanting to introduce yourself, because you've introduced yourself already. But I do tell other people, don't be shy about that stuff. We are literally all there for you. Don't feel like you're bothering us, both at intern, G-Con, Legion, maybe not so much G-Con. G-Con, we're pretty darn busy. But intern, LegionsCon, we are there to meet people, to talk about this stuff, to make connections. So don't be shy. Come up and introduce yourself and say hello.
Yeah, and just even last year when I didn't know who anybody was, so I didn't have that, like, I didn't even need to have the like, oh, this is somebody mentality. Like you were talking about Len talking to Eric at the table, not realizing it was him. Yeah, there's none of that from them. So yeah, they're really cool to talk to, and everybody is really approachable. So yeah, I just the amount of information and getting to meet all these people I've been talking to since I joined the Cabal and everything in person. So it's been nice to have a little bit of introduction at ZoloCon and PowerCon and RetroCon. Get some of that. Yeah, it's gonna be great. Speaking of LegionsCon, how does this button work? There we go.
Quinta.
So this place does not know what's coming for it.
So I went there on Monday. If you saw the video I posted of me running through the halls of the hotel, I went there and I spoke to our handler at the hotel, and I dropped a number of pieces of information on her to see if I could get her to flinch. Because, I was like, hey, I told her how many people we're expecting, and she was cool. She wasn't like, whoa, what the hell? There's some of the stuff we want to do. And I was like, hey, we're going to have a line that literally goes from here all the way down this hallway. And she was like, cool. The only thing she flinched about was when I said, fans are going to probably start lining up around like 2 o'clock in the morning. And she was like, what? And I said, well, not a lot, but not none. Like there will be people that will be in the lobby probably at 2 o'clock in the morning waiting in a line that really isn't a line yet because there's only a couple of them, but it'll grow. And that was the one, and she didn't say it was a problem. She was just like surprised by the thing. Because I mean, we took them by surprise because they don't know what LegionsCon is. And we have sold out about like 75-80% of the hotel. Like they gave us a block of rooms and we sold it out. And they said, oh, we'll give you more. So they gave us more. And they kept giving us more rooms. And they just kept adding more to the block. And they got to the point where they just said, like, hey, you've got like almost the whole hotel reserved. We can't give you any more rooms. We rented every square inch of space that they would allow us to rent. So they're big. When we were telling them we want to do, they're like, the whole hotel's yours. Like literally, it's all you and your people. So go ahead, do it. Which is great to be in that position. It is crazy that we won't be back next year. Like, this is a really cool place, and we're gonna have a great time there. But we figured we'd get 2 years out of it, and we're gonna get one. And we're, we turned away exhibitors. We sold out of tickets. I see people every day. I get emails every day from people that are like, "Hey, we'd really like tickets to LegionsCon," and I have to say, very sorry, we're sold out. If you're in the cabal, ask in there. I know there are some people that may not be able to use the tickets they purchased. You may get lucky, but we set a limit for a very specific reason. The fact that we're already next year figuring out where to go bigger and better is amazing.
That's incredible.
But it's a cool place. The hotel itself, like the venue that we have. Do you have the map actually that I did? I did
with all the rooms.
I did a map.
Yep.
Of the floor. Yeah, there we go.
It's not very big.
So I had previously done a map of the showroom where all the exhibitors are. And that's available at LegionsCon.com. But then when I was there with George last Monday, he was like, hey, you know what? We should really do a floor map that shows all the different rooms and where everything is. So that's what this is. And, you can see, Jesse, that little green box way in the bottom, the lower left corner, the lower right corner, that is the hotel entrance. So when you come in, the front desk will be right in front of you. Over to your left, it's an open air lounge. It's not like a bar or anything. It's just like some couches and stuff, open seating area. But right beyond that is where the registration table will be. And literally the entire floor, all of this stuff we rented. The only thing that we didn't rent was the pool. They wouldn't allow us to rent the pool area. But again, it's all our people that are in the hotel. So if they want to go hang out in Pelvicus's grotto, they're welcome to do so. So you can see here that, when I shot that video the other day, there were the two different like entrance ways. You can see that red line. What fans are going to have to do is they're going to have to figure out, do you want to wait in the long queue? We're going to get people through that line as quickly as possible. But the reality is when you come to the Horseman table and you buy a bunch of stuff, it does take a few minutes to check you out. And when you have person after person after person doing that, that line is going to move slower than just going into the rest of the show. So fans have to decide if they want to get in that queue, start at the Horseman table and at the LegionsCon table, or if they want to maybe save that for later and do the rest of the show.
Okay. Question popped up here. Do you know if they will allow people to line up early if they're not staying in the hotel?
I don't think they're going to know. I mean, literally, they're not going to know who's staying in the hotel or not. So I don't think it'll be a problem if you want to line up, somewhat early. There's going to be people there that are going to be lined up. Like I said, we pretty much have the whole hotel. So as long as you're respectful and you're not being, obnoxious, which I wouldn't imagine people would be, I think we'll be fine.
Very cool. Maverick
I
seems
just
to be.
want I just
Go
want to
ahead.
point out, I saw a comment where someone says that they vote we keep it in Jersey. It's going to be in Jersey. There's that is no, that's not up for debate. I know a lot of people have said, "Oh, we'd love for you to come to California or Texas or all these things." And we are looking to do shows in some of those other places and get further away. But LegionsCon will remain in Jersey. This is home. This is where the studio is. To be able to do this intern G-Con, LegionsCon, we've got to be in our home base. And not for nothing, to be able to bring the quantity of product we want to bring, we've got to be here. You know, uh, even just like the LegionsCon exclusives, to get those to the warehouse and then get them trucked over to the hotel, that is an endeavor. To try to get them trucked somewhere else, like to Texas, it wouldn't be feasible for us to do that. We couldn't do the show we want to do unless we were close to home.
Well, and we saw that at PowerCon.
Yeah.
It was 3 days, and you had different things out each day. There was a lot of repeat stuff, but there were different
Mhm.
ones each
Yep.
day, and how each day they progressively sold out faster.
Yeah, it was insane. We rented a box truck. Like we packed a box truck. Joe Vasapolo packed that thing where we couldn't squeeze anything else into that darn truck. And I mean, Eric Cornboy drove the Dio up there. Like he put the Dio in his Jeep, so that wasn't even taking up room in the box truck. We could have brought, if we would have had more room, we could have brought more stuff. You're right. We sold out every day. Sunday we sold out in like 50 minutes.
Mhm.
Everything that was on the table. So when we realized how much demand there was at PowerCon on that Friday, we were already there. We couldn't, it was an 8-hour drive back to the studio. We're like, we're not going to do a 16-hour round trip to go get more product. It just doesn't make sense. At LegionsCon, the venue is 20 minutes from the studio. So if someone has to go back and get more, or if we need to bring more stuff on Sunday, that is totally feasible. And at ToyCon events that we've done, ToyCon is also in New Jersey. We've done that many times. There have been a lot of times where we've just sent people back, Cameron or Joe or whatever, back to the studio to get more product.
I mean, that's smart. I mean, and that's as again back to the whole thing with the way the Horsemen do things and the way the company does things. Like you're putting the fans. I mean, I know, yes, it's a business, and they're selling product, which is good for them, but like it's also it's a win-win because then you're getting more stuff in more people's hands
Yeah, of
that
course.
really want it. So it's we got a question about the exclusives as
Yep.
they came up. Let's see where to go. I believe you have answered this, but I'll let you address it again here if you don't mind. Um,
Yeah.
you have enough for everybody to get them. That's much better than
So I will never, ever, ever, ever use the word guarantee. So the question was, is everyone who has tickets guaranteed? No, you are not guaranteed anything. What I said was that we have enough of these that everyone who's coming to the show, if they want to get them, they should be able to do so. But if you wait until the end of the day on Saturday, they may be gone. You know, I don't want to take any of them with me. We want to sell them, so we're going to sell them. What I did say is don't feel like you got to get into that line first. If you want to hit the rest of the show first, and then say around lunchtime when the line starts to die down, you want to hit the LegionsCon table, you will be fine.
Okay, there we go. And that applies both days, correct?
Oh yeah,
That's
absolutely.
that
I mean,
basic principle. Okay.
yeah, there's enough. There is enough, and this is one of the reasons why we limited the tickets to what we did. Was we didn't want there to be a feeding frenzy where only the people that get in the first like hour get the figures. We wanted there to be enough for everybody to get them, but I don't ever use the word guarantee.
Sure.
So you're going to have to get in line to get them at some point. but you don't have to do it first. If you want to see all the other tables, because the Horseman table and the LegionsCon table, they're right side of each other. That's going to be like blocked off by some stanchions or whatever so we can control the line. If you get into that long line, you go to there first, then you're just going to get dumped into the rest of the show. Or if you want to go in the main hallway in any of the first 3 doors, that'll get you into everything but those 2 tables. So there are some people that may say, like, you know what? As cool as it is to see that stuff at the Horseman table, to have access to get some of those, I don't need any of it. Like I'm cool. I'm caught up. It'd be great to get more of it at those prices, but I don't want to wait in that line instead of going to everything else, because there's a lot of customizers that, you know, and artists and so forth that are going to be selling stuff at LegionsCon who don't normally sell stuff. You know, I'm bringing like 20 something full customs with me for sale. I have one of each. So once someone comes up to the Legion shop, all of my stuff's for sale at the Legion shop table. If someone comes to that table and says, I want that figure, and they buy it, it's gone. We don't have another one. So people have to decide if it's more important to them to get into that stuff or wait in that Horseman line.
But a lot of those customs are one of a kind. So
they are. Yes.
Now,
when it comes to the exclusives, if you don't want to wait at the start, you can go to those. Like I said, anytime after lunch, I would say the line should be a lot lower and you should be able to walk up and have no problem.
And I remember it being the way it was laid out last year. The exclusive was in the one corner, and then the Horseman table was on the other side of the room. So you kind of like looped in, you hit that the con exclusive table as you were getting in line for the Horseman table. Yeah, it was long for the first hour or two, and there was still a line even later in the day, but it wasn't, I mean, it was a couple people from the end of the table. So,
and this one's a little bit different. Last year we separated the 2 lines because of the way we had the room. This year, it made more sense to put them side by side so you could hit one and then just hit the second one. But you're right. I mean, the doors open at 9 o'clock. I would say that probably by 12, 1 o'clock, that line is going to be gone. There won't be any line there. You know, the breakout sessions start at 12 noon on Saturday. So definitely some people are going to want to go and be a part of those. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see exactly how it's going to go. But as I said, as long as you go up, you know, at a reasonable time, you should have no problem getting the exclusives.
Okay. And I thought I heard you say in one of your Mythic conversations or somewhere else where you were talking that, are those stanchions going to stay up the whole time, or once the line dies down, are they going to come down? Or is that
if there is no line left, we'll pull them down.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's almost silly that we don't need them, because once the line starts, the line becomes its own barrier. Right. You know, because people are just going to walk up and say, "Oh, I'm just going to jump right in here." Right. But at least for the start to have it there. But yeah, definitely if the line dies down and we're like, hey, there's no reason to have this, we'll pull it down just to open up the flow a little bit.
Okay. So I'm going to throw I got the room map here. Can't really make out who it is. So you're going to go around that long hallway from the
yes,
the other picture. So you're going to go down, follow this red line from the lobby back. Yep. I keep mousing over this. No one can see my mouse.
Yeah. Yeah. So what it will be is that second hallway. I call that the Kingdoms of Mythos corridor. If you go down there, that's where all the breakout rooms are. So you can see that there's the Etheros room, the yellow room. That's the one that we're going to have open all day. It's just going to be set up with tables and chairs. So people who just want to get away from the hustle and bustle, want to just sit down and chill out, they can go and do it in that room. And that room is going to be open 24 hours. So even if you're not staying at the hotel, you can go hang out in that room. Okay. Now, when the morning comes, I'm going to kick everyone out so they can't skip the line. But prior to that morning, you can go and chill out in that room. Because that was one of the cool things last year at LegionsCon was after we went out to dinner, after people did stuff, we went back to the hotel and we're just chilling out in the lobby. And we were in the lobby until like 2 o'clock in the morning, just talking. big groups of us. So I wanted to be able to do that here as well. That's what that room is about. That's going to allow for that.
Very cool.
The Basilia room is right after it. That's the one where there'll be breakout sessions in there. That's the one where the not third party, the independent toy creators, that's where they will be. So if you come around there, you go around the back, you go by the pool, that will bring you in that final door, that last door that's right in front of the Horseman table. So if you go to the other map, you can see where those 4 red tables are. That little green box that you see there, that's the doorway that you would have just gone into.
Okay. So, and then that black line there.
That's just meant to be the stanchions.
That's the stanchions. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then, yeah, so that is a jam-packed floor. Now, did you say it doubled the amount of vendors from last year, or almost doubled?
No, it didn't double the amount of vendors. We got most of the people that were there last year elected to come back this year. We have 71 tables. I forget exactly how many vendors it is. Actually, no, the second page is not. Trying to think if I have it listed. I have it listed by table. It's 71 vendors. It's like 50 something, 71 tables, 50 something vendors. So it's a few more than we had last year. It might be like 15 more than we had last year. But it's also more tables than last year.
Okay.
A lot more tables.
Very cool. It's, yeah. Oh, whoops. Sorry. I forgot that slide was still up.
No, that's perfectly fine.
So Daith, the unknown one. And yeah, I know you were talking on your show this week about the detail on those wings, and just what I can see in the picture is great. So I just imagine knowing what Mythic Legions look like in your hand. And that's not a slight on Trevor.
Yeah.
Or any of the other photographers. That's it's just something different.
Yep.
When it's in your hand, which you and then of course the Furious 4.
Yeah, and that, of course, that also comes. So after my show last week where I opened these boxes, because my whole idea from day one with these, when I put these characters together, was I really wanted to encourage popping and swapping. I really wanted the fans to get them and have that joy of pulling them apart and putting them together in different configurations. So while the Bushati figure and the Pelvicus figure have the same build, as does Pitorion and Uwit, that was for the practical purposes of presenting the toy. My whole plan was always to pull them apart and change them around a little bit. So that's what I did earlier. Actually, last week I did that, and I shared that on Monday, and it included this guy here. So it's not shown in that picture, but the cat head, the cat head and the cat tail, those are the parts that are exclusive to the LegionsCon version, the LegionsCon show edition. So putting together my build for that, this character immediately became one of my favorites.
No surprises there with the critters.
Yeah. Love me some critters.
Absolutely. And I know you said there will be a limited amount of both of these sets available on Legion Shop at some point after the convention. Yep. And then standard editions sometime next year.
Yeah, we'll do exactly like we did with Sir Girard. We'll hold a small number back to try to people that couldn't get it to the con, to try to allow them to get it at Legion Shop. It'll be a small number and they'll go fast. Last year, the Sir Girard sold out in 90 seconds. It'll be quick. Yeah. But there's also the standard edition. The Sir Girard standard edition was on Store Horseman for like 24 hours. So fans had an opportunity to get, that figure. And this will be the same thing. It'll be available. It won't be part of a pre-order. It'll be available at Store Horseman as part of like an in-stock drop.
Like Girard was with the reinforcements.
We snuck Girard into reinforcements. We'll put these, whether we sneak it into something else or whether we just do a drop for these, both the standard version of a Daith and the standard version of the Furious 4. So the Furious 4 standard edition, it's not 4, it's only 2. So you get one figure that is basically the alpha figure with the pelvicus head. So it's this figure, but with the skeleton head. And then the other 2, the bigger build with the bull, Praetorian, and the orc wit, that'll be the second one. So it'll be 2 individual cards that, again, you can mix and match the heads to make the characters.
So if someone was coming with more of a budget to the con, they could get one of the exclusive 2-packs at the show. They'd have all the extra parts, including the exclusive with the cat head, and then they could wait and get 2 more of the standards, and then they just have a couple extra heads.
Sure, but you just asked the con promoter if I should encourage people to not buy the con figure. No. So the con promoter is going to say, no, you should absolutely not do that. You should absolutely go to the con and buy the figures because they will make you happy.
Right. Yes.
But
I didn't know. I know some people are buying. They're buying one for themselves. They're buying one for a friend that can't make it to a show. So just because as much as this stuff gets talked about, it feels like sometimes information gets lost in the cabal, and
very much so.
You know,
the cat head and tail. That's the stuff that comes in the exclusive version only, the show version only. So yes, if someone were to buy one of the sets or bought 2, helped somebody out, sold one of them or whatever, and kept one, and then waited for the standards, yes, the standard edition, they're not deco changes. They'll have all the same stuff except for that. So if they have at least one of the sets from the show, they'll have the parts they need to make the cat.
Okay. And the Adaith, his exclusive part is the skeleton neck and head, correct?
That part is what is exclusive to that package.
Okay. Very cool. I'm clicking through the slides again, and they're still on the screen. Sorry, I'm still getting used to all the stuff with StreamYard.
All the bells and whistles of StreamYard, no problem.
Yeah. So obviously, I know getting to see everybody, especially people you haven't met before or haven't seen in a while, is one of the things you have said you're very much looking forward to. And then seeing everybody react to the Necronominus stuff. Is there anything else that's got you excited? Are there any?
Yes. So, I've said many times, LegionsCon is part toy show, part art exhibit, part family reunion. And I'm excited for all 3 of those things. From the art show, I love to see this stuff. Being able to walk around and see all the other exhibitors and what they have on display is incredible. The fact that, last year you were at the show as an attendee, so you didn't get this, but we started setting up at like 7:00 in the morning on Sunday. The show was like 9. So there was this mad dash of everybody trying to get their stuff up and ready before the doors open. And then the doors opened and everyone came in, and so many exhibitors have said that they didn't even get a chance to walk the floor. The only way, I ended up doing a video towards the end of the day. I walked around and did a live video for people at home, and I heard a number of people say the only reason they saw the show, like exhibitors say, the only reason they saw the show is because they watched my video. This year, the fact that we do set up Friday night and it's closed to the public, it's only exhibitors, and I'm trying to be very, very, strict about that. That's going to allow us to have a more relaxed setup and be able to leave our tables and mingle. That night, I think, is going to be something special. So I'm very much looking forward to Friday night, walking around, seeing all the exhibits, and we're going to be hours away from G-Con Necronominus being revealed to still be basking in that, and everyone just going like, oh my goodness. That's going to be great. But I also, sitting back and seeing people make connections, seeing people have fun and knowing that you did it, that you brought this together, that is something that is special for me. And it's something that not everybody, like so many of us that are exhibitors, can experience similar interactions and similar takeaways from the con. But as the person putting this on with Joe, we have something that we can take away that nobody else can. And that is, the year of work that goes into it coming to fruition, seeing what we've built, seeing everyone come together. So being able to kind of step back for a minute and take a deep breath and look at the landscape and see everyone having fun, and just for a moment taking stock of that and being proud of it, that's something I'm looking forward to as well.
Awesome. As busy as I know you're going to be in all of that, and a lot of that will be just taking time to interact with people. Is that going to be a hard thing for you to remember to check yourself to do, to just to step back and take it in, or have you kind of not
We'll
conditioned, like
see.
trained yourself to be aware of that?
We'll see. I mean, I do try to be mindful of taking a moment to enjoy it and take it all in. My family's going to be there for the first time. My son Jacob came with me last year to both GCon and to LegionsCon. This will be the first time that my wife and daughter are there. And it's kind of cool. I mean, I think it's important for her to see that. We always talk about, when I tell my story, I talk about how I'm living my dream. And it's great that I get to do this. But the part that doesn't really get mentioned is, like, I took a massive leap this year in doing this. My family took a leap. I don't generally talk about it, but I mean, the job that I left, I'd been at for 14 years. I was one of the senior managers of the company. I I had imagined myself retiring at that company until this opportunity presented itself. And, I would make this decision 10 times out of 10. It's been an amazing, amazing ride, and it's only just beginning. But, you know, coming home and having to say to my wife, hey, I want to quit my job that I've worked at for 14 years to go work for a company in New Jersey that makes action figures. And obviously I've been working with them part-time for 3 years, so it's not like it was a total unknown. But there is a leap of faith there. So I'm excited for her to be able to see the community and see what I'm a part of, because I think that that's going to make it that much more real for her as well. I mean, that much more impactful. She'll see, like, really what I'm a part of. So I think she'll help me kind of take stock of everything and step back, because it's going to be her first impression of all that as well. I mean, I will say that if last year's LegionsCon is anything like, if this year is anything like last year, I'm going on, just full speed ahead for 4 days. I go to bed in my normal life. I go to bed pretty early and I wake up pretty early. At LegionsCon, I still wake up pretty early, but I go to bed very late. Like, I think last year, every night I was in bed around 2:30, and I was up by 5:30, 6 o'clock every morning.
Oh wow.
It's so much adrenaline. It is so
Yeah.
much adrenaline that I can't waste time sleeping. I can sleep later. While I'm at LegionsCon, it's full steam ahead.
I can't say I know that experience personally from putting on a show, but the first time I ever did a con was Baltimore Comic Con in 2013. Sean and I had a table. I did my own self-published comic.
Mhm.
I was so stressed leading up to that. We had two guys come with us, and they were calling me the general, because I had like a plan. We're gonna hit this. We're gonna, it was Baltimore, so it's only like an hour and a half away. By the time I got to bed, so we got there Friday night, got to the table Saturday morning and everything. I barely slept Friday night, and I
Yeah.
slept on the floor because we had two beds, and I'm like, I don't share beds. I just don't.
Mhm.
So when you when you were having that our discussion with Steven, I totally get that. Um,
I'm long past that age where I'm sharing a
yeah,
bed.
even at PowerCon and RetroCon, I slept on the floor in the hotel rooms. But this time I get my own bed. Um, but in that, I woke up so early,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to get to the show, so I like got all my stuff ready. I was gone before anybody else was
Yep.
up, and so like I'm to an extent I can and understand some of that,
Yeah.
and I'm sure I won't be sleeping much that weekend myself either.
Well, it'll be good. I mean, after the show's done, I'll do Mythic Conversations the week after to kind of recap everything. I kind of have to, the Necronominus wave,
Sure.
LegionsCon, got to recap everything. But then I'll probably take a few weeks off. I'm gonna probably it's been, especially the last few weeks. I mean, as if LegionsCon, putting on LegionsCon wasn't enough work. I also have my own table that's going to be displaying my customs. There's the Legion shop table with all that stuff. And I work for Four Horsemen Studios. So we happen to have a giant wave coming out, and we have all the show stuff. We have things we're bringing, surprises. There's so many things being juggled right now that once I'm on the other side of it, and I think everyone at the studio is the same way. Once we're on the other side of this weekend, it's going to be like, okay, take a deep breather, step back for a moment, take stock of everything, and then it's looking ahead to next year.
Yeah. I I've gone on a couple trips to South Africa as like work relief
Oh,
trips,
really?
and it's so much, it's so intense, and then there's the long trip back, and you're still with everybody in your team, and then I the last two times I went, I was in Pennsylvania, everybody else was in Illinois, so I split off with them either in DC or New York. So the last couple hours of my trip I was all by myself, and I am slightly introverted, or I need that alone time, but like after that, coming off of that, I felt completely disconnected from life, and just it took a lot to process what we had just experienced, especially the first time. So I mean, imagine it, different emotions, but similar feelings.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I'm very thankful Sean's going with me, and he'll be in the car to talk on the way back Sunday night. And yeah, going to work Monday morning is going to be
Oh, yeah, it'd be brutal.
like a slap in the
I've said
face.
that. I've said that the Monday morning after Legion's Con, or I mean, there are plenty of people that are traveling Monday, maybe Tuesday's their first day back. But regardless, that first day back after Legion's Con is a difficult day. It is
Yeah.
because to change gears and go back, to leave the realm of mythos and go back to the real world. Oof. Luckily, I don't have to leave. Luckily,
Right.
I have the distinct privilege of I just get to go right back to mythos. But
You just get to do it from your own home. Well,
yes,
whenever you get back.
yeah,
Um, I know I saw a couple of people asking what you're going to have at the Horseman table, and I know you never really specify what you have
yeah,
because you don't want to say something and then it's sold out. So,
yeah. That's
um,
that's the practical reason. Is if we say we're going to have X and you show up and X is not there, there's potential disappointment. So we never reveal what we're going to bring. What I can tell you is there's going to be a ton of product at Legion's Con. Like this is the mother load. I always say this: you're not going to find Wave One figures; those are not in the warehouse. But there's going to be a lot of really, really cool stuff. There will be purchase limits. We do, want to make sure that as many people as possible can get these figures, and there aren't people just stocking up on, some of the harder to find ones. But there's going to be some great stuff on the table for sure.
excellent. And I really like, as a fan, even though I'm a customizer and I'll have a table and everything there, I really appreciate the limits. I think that's a real, I know that's got to be a hard thing to, maybe not a hard thing, but maybe not a fun thing to tell people like, no, you can't buy
Mhm.
more, or how I learned at PowerCon, you were limiting, it's literally one each.
Yep.
And or that the vendors couldn't come up before the show started.
That's
Like
the hard one.
I think
That's the hard one.
that's that's hard, but I really respect that. And a lot of people I've talked to seem to really appreciate that.
The what saying it's one of each figure per person, that's not hard. Like that kind of a purchase limit people are generally okay with. What's hard is because it's so unprecedented, right? Most tables, if you're a vendor and you walk up to a table before the show, and you're like, hey, I want to buy that, table doesn't care. They're like, I just want to sell the damn thing. Like,
Right.
I came to a toy show to sell toys. If you want to buy it, I'm going to sell it. Um, we're playing with different rules here. Like, the people that have been out in line since 2 o'clock, there's a guy in the chat saying, like, how early can I line up in the lobby?
Right.
If that person gets to the table and something is sold out because we let the vendors in the room cherry pick the table first, that sucks. We want people to come to shows, right? We know that part of this line success is the strength of the community. And you experience that when you go to shows and you interact with others and you interact with us. So we want to encourage that. We want to be a cool experience. Getting to the table and seeing that stuff gone and seeing vendors walking away with them, that is not a cool experience. So yeah, at PowerCon, I was the bad guy. It was not fun to have to tell vendors, no, I'm sorry, you cannot get in line to buy stuff. And they said, well, can I get in line when the doors open? And I said, the line is out there. If you're in that line, yes. And I mean, we had security at PowerCon that literally ushered people up to our table and made sure that other people weren't cutting. But I was a lot of vendors' least favorite person at PowerCon last year. But I do it. I fall on that sword. The studio made this policy specifically to try to give the fans that are waiting outside in line a chance to get that stuff.
And that's yeah, and I think that's really cool because other things I've collected, that have been exclusives are harder to get. It's always been like online. They
Yeah.
sell out so fast or whatever. And I know that's going to be when the in-stock sales and those things happen. But to do that at the show, to be like, hey, if you get in the line, you can come through. But I just think that's a really honorable, sounds like too fancy of a word, but I think that's like a nice, honorable, like cool thing to do because it is putting the fans first. And like you said before, the fans, a lot of the vendors are fans too.
Yeah, it's hard. It's, and I you're one of the exhibitors this year. You can speak to the fact that I sent messages to all the exhibitors saying, listen, I know you're all fans. You wouldn't be exhibiting at LegionsCon if you weren't. You're going to be in the room before the line lets in. You cannot go to the horseman table. This is company policy. If you want to get to that table, you need to send someone into the line outside and wait like everybody else. That's the best way that we can say the rules are the same for everybody, whether you're an exhibitor, whether you're a fan outside, just an attendee. We're all there. We all want access to it. That's the way that we have to do it. And I will say there will be stuff at LegionsCon that we have one case left. So 24 pieces. We'll limit that to one per person, but the first 24 people that say, I want that, it'll be sold out. So there will be stuff that sells out to the earlier people in line for sure.
Yeah. And at other shows I've gone to, for example, again, a Baltimore Comic-Con, they had a Batman comic came out that was suddenly everybody was buying it. And like the creative team behind the book was selling it new, not even signed, for like triple the price at their table.
Yeah,
Because they knew everybody was coming to them, getting autographs and selling them at their table for 3 times the price. So like,
yep. We do not do that. I saw someone ask about con prices. Our con prices don't change. They're more expensive than when you buy them online. It's for taxes. Like, it's not us saying we can get more. A $37 standard figure is $40 at the show because we have to pay sales tax on it.
yeah.
So rather than trying to figure out what the sales tax would be on everything and having wacky like amounts with change, we're not doing freaking coins.
Yeah.
So we just round up and we just say, hey, standard figure is $40. Legion Builder is $30. Horses are $60. The Centaur was 75, I think.
The
Ogres are 65. Trolls, we have very specific prices
Mhm.
that we do at the shows, and that is why they're a little bit more. It just represents the sales tax.
And it keeps it easier to keep the line moving too. Like with when it comes to the cash, you just it's a lot easier, like you said, than having to count out coins and stuff.
And we do take card too. I know one of the most common questions I see people ask is, do the horsemen take cards? 100%. We will take credit cards. We will take cash. I will tell you the LegionsCon table for the exclusives. We will also take card or cash, as will the Legion shop table. So any of those, there's going to be a lot of small exhibitors there that are going to be cash only. That's everyone's decision. No, everyone has to decide what they want to do, but we know that cash may be at a premium, so we will accept cards at those other places.
Very cool. Sorry, yeah, I'm just
just thinking about it.
I am, yeah, I'm just, yeah, I'm just very excited, and it's just going to be cool to see everybody again. And now that I was in rooms with people last year who I'm now friends with that I didn't even know
No,
they were people that existed last year, and it's just really cool.
yeah, it makes me really happy to see, especially people that came last year traveling out again. Because not for nothing, I know this is not easy. Like, I understand that if you live across the country, coming out to LegionsCon is an investment. Um, I see people say like, oh, it's not feasible for me to go there. I live too far away. Everyone's got to make their own decisions. There are people flying from, Sweden, the UK, the Philippines. People are coming in from all over. So everyone has to decide what's important for them, if it makes sense for them. All that I can do, and I've said this before, my job, since day one, Joe and I have said our goal is to make the show so much fun that if you come, you can't imagine not coming next year. You're like, this has got to be a yearly thing. Like, this has got to be something that I do every single year. Put it on the calendar every year. And then if you didn't make it this year, when you see the recaps, you see the photos, you hear the people talking, you say, one way or another, I'm making it work next year and I'm coming. And I've heard a lot of people who skipped last year who said, you know what, I didn't want to miss that again. I found a way to make it work. I'm coming.
Yeah. It's easier for me. I'm only 3 hours away.
Yeah.
It's an easy drive. So like it's easy, but like it's that goal, at least for me, and I'm pretty sure for Sean, I think I can speak for him. I don't think, unless there's some absolutely unchangeable reason that we can't go, I
Mm,
can't see that we'll be missing this at any time, down the road.
yeah.
So,
Like you said, you're nearby, you're close enough that for you, this can certainly be something that is feasible every year.
yeah, and even if it wasn't, if I got to experience what I experienced last year and got into the line like I did, if I was further away, I wouldn't do the other smaller shows.
What When are you doing a show after LegionsCon? Because you keep talking about how overwhelmed you were last year, and you don't understand what you're going to be like this year. Because, like, I look at last year. Last year was great, but I look at what we have going on this year, and I'm not kidding. I look at last year and I go, "What the hell are we doing? Like, what were we doing? What? Like, everyone said they had such a good time, and I look at what we're doing, and I'm just like, man, last year was nothing. We got so much more this year. And I guarantee you that next year I'll be saying the same thing about this year. Now you get the whole package, so you're going to get even more. But even just those people who are coming to just LegionsCon, oh, it is going to be something super special.
Yeah, and yeah, even if I wasn't doing intern in GCon, I would be as excited, or even having a table, just going back and just being with people. Like, you can shave off any bit of this and I'd still be as excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other cool stuff too is, it is in a good area. It's a safe area. So I know there are a lot of people traveling from out of state and they're like, is this an okay area to be? It's a very safe area that we're in. It's a very populated type area. There's a lot of businesses around it. So right across the street from the La Quinta, like literally, there's a crosswalk you can walk. The parking at the La Quinta is only supposed to be for the people that are actually staying at the hotel. But right across the street, literally crosswalk across the street, there's a large free parking garage. If that is full, there's also a Kohl's department store that's a 5-minute walk. You can see it. Like if you walk out from the hotel and look to your left, you can see the Kohl's. So that's right there. There's a huge parking lot there. Apparently, a lot of people park there. But all in this area, there's a lot of different businesses. That parking garage across the street, that's right on the side of a Bonefish Grill. That same plaza has a Jersey Mike Subs, a Domino's Pizza, and a Panera Bread. So that's where a lot of people are probably going to eat during the afternoon. I imagine that Bonefish Grill is where a lot of people are going to go after hours to have drinks and conversation and something to eat for dinner as groups of people. That's a big part of this, going out, being with other people, coming back to the hotel, hanging out with them in that, that breakout room in the lobby, whatever. That's a lot of fun. Like that's a huge part of LegionsCon. Once the doors close, the experience does not end.
Yeah. You just don't get to look at the tables for a couple hours.
That's literally what it is. You get to go and just mingle and talk. And it's nice too for the exhibitors because we're working all day. We're behind the tables working. So that's the point where we can step away and kind of enjoy the community as well. The only thing I will caution is we are limited in how much we can do. So people that are coming in that may want FaceTime with, Nikki or Dennis or myself, we want to hang out and talk to everybody, but there's only so much we can do. Nikki had actually mentioned this on Trevor's show about how, she needs to step away. She needs to say no, step away, recharge her batteries. Literally, I don't. I'm going to go all night. I will be crazy going, giving everyone attention, but I have a limit too where I can't be everywhere. People ask me if they can buy me a drink or, go here. If I start drinking, I can't go at the speed I need to go, and I can only go out to so many places. So please don't be offended if anybody can't, go where you want them to go or do what you want them to do. There is only, so much you can do at once.
Sure. Question here. People flying in present the QR codes at the front desk. Is there two? I believe you said there's two different lines, correct?
Yeah. So the front desk has nothing to do with it. The only thing you do at the front desk is if you're staying in the hotel. If you're staying in the hotel, you're gonna go check in. As far as the show goes, what's gonna happen is Friday night we will have badge check-in. So if you are in the area Friday night between like 5 and 9 p.m., you can come to the hotel. You can scan your QR code. So everyone who registered for this, when you bought your tickets, you bought it through Eventbrite. If you look in your email for Eventbrite, you should find the email that has a QR code. If you can't find it, just go to eventbrite.com and log in with your email that you used. You should find My Tickets. You'll see the actual QR code. That QR code is what we need to scan. If you bring it up on Friday night, we'll scan it, give you your badge. On Saturday morning, there will be two lines. One for people that already have their badges and one for people that still need to pick up. Now, I'm going to be very blunt. The line of people that have badges are getting in first because I can just literally go. We can just get them right in. The line of badges we have to check, it takes a little bit of time to check every single badge, to scan that code and give you your badge. You can help us out by when you get to the table, have your QR code ready. If you come to the table and say, I don't know what to do, what do I do? That slows down everything behind you. So be prepared, have your QR code ready. We can get you in faster. if you are flying in or whatever, whenever you get to the venue, if it's Saturday morning, get in the line to pick up your badge. When you get up to there, you get your badge scanned, you get your actual lanyard with your badge, and then you can get into the show.
Can someone pick up the badge? I believe, again, as long as they scan that code and you trust them to give you the badge.
The QR code works once. So if you give someone your QR code and they scan it, and then you come in the next day and you're like, I can't find my friend, can you just scan it again? The answer is no, we can't. Once it's scanned and we hand a badge, we cannot scan it again. It's already checked in. I have no idea, if one person's trying to get in, most people in with that same badge. I want to believe no one's going to do anything nefarious, but that's why it works like any other. Think about it like any other ticketed event. When you go to a concert, you scan that badge, they let you in. If someone comes in with that same QR code, they're not going to let you into the concert. So yes, they can. If you give them the QR code, if you email them the QR code and they scan it Friday night, no problem. We will hand the badge. Get those badges, and then you'll have them. If you can pick them up from them that night or that morning, you'll have them ready to go.
Okay.
Excellent. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer anything else that people may want to talk about.
Oh, Curtis throwing out some nice words here. Welcome to the show, Curtis.
I'm looking forward to seeing Curtis. So
Me too.
I talked to Curtis quite a bit. One of my favorite people out there. Never met him in person. So Curtis is someone that I'm very much looking forward to seeing. Curtis is also going to intern. So I am hoping that I'm one of the first people that Curtis sees when he gets to the studio, and I can give him a big giant hug and welcome him into the studio.
That sounds good. Yeah, I know. Yeah, there's so many people. I was waiting for this one from Danny. Favorite author and book series?
Favorite author? It'd probably be Neil Gaiman if I had to pick one. But my favorite book series? I mean, I want to say the King Killer series by Patrick Rothfuss, but I also can't stand that man because he hasn't written the third book yet, and I'm dying to read that third book. As any, fan of the King Killer books, but from like fantasy books, those are my favorite. The King Killer books are my absolute favorite. I have a wide range of books I like. One of my favorite books that's a different kind of book. There's a book by an author named Erin Morgenstern called The Night Circus. That's absolutely one of my favorites. And I've spoken about others. There's a book series by Catherine Arden called the Midwinter Trilogy. That the first book is The Bear and the Nightingale. I love those. I've read those a number of times. So those are just a couple.
I'll try to remember. There's a graphic novel called Iron.
Okay.
It's all animal, kind of anthropomorphic, but it's very subtle. It's not like cartoony looking. There, it's see if I can remember to bring it, and if you find it, it's really fun. It's kind of like they talk about a war or event. It feels kind of World War II or post World War II era-y kind of spies and stuff. It's really I shouldn't say fun because heavy stuff isn't fun, but it's really well done. And yeah, I'm gonna pull that off my shelf tonight. Set it with my stack of stuff.
Favorite Mythic pizza topping. So I tend to just get cheese pizza because it's quick and easy. If I do get toppings, I do like sausage, onion, and peppers. And I know that this is very controversial, but I actually do like Hawaiian pizza. I do like pineapple on pizza, which is a funny story. Do you know what they call Hawaiian pizza in Hawaii?
Pizza?
That's a common joke, but no, there is something they call it.
Okay, no, I'm not familiar.
They call it white boy pizza.
Oh.
Because nobody in Hawaii eats Hawaiian pizza. The only people that order that in Hawaii are tourists who go there and they're like, oh my God, we got to get Hawaiian pizza. When I went to Hawaii, I had my sister-in-law and her husband. They were stationed in the military in Hawaii for a few years. We went to visit them. So they were like that mix of like, we live here, but we're not from Hawaii. But they've been there long enough that they knew the local type stuff.
Okay.
And that's what they had told, because I, like a jackass, I ordered some while I was there. And that's what they told us. They call it white boy pizza. But yes, I do like pineapple and ham on pizza.
I don't know if I've ever tried Hawaiian pizza. I'd say my weirdest pizza that I've had is the mac and cheese pizza from CC's.
Okay.
Which isn't that weird, but
yeah, it's
the first time I had it, I did not like it. I'm like, why are there noodles on my pizza? This isn't, and maybe it was just a bad mix that day, but then I got hooked on it.
I do normally just do cheese pizza. It's quick and easy. And my daughter just likes cheese pizza. My wife likes veggie pizza, and I don't really care for. I don't like black olives, so I don't really care for veggie pizza. So when I just do cheese, it's kind of pleases everybody in the family.
The compromise for everybody.
Like it just go basic.
Nice. All right. Well, extra mayo. Why do people always bring up mayonnaise on my show?
Oh, Big Mac pizza. That's horrible.
Mayonnaise in general is just horrible.
So you never answered me. When is your next show after LegionsCon?
Oh, of this?
Yeah,
because it'll be the next Sunday.
The next Sunday. Okay,
yep.
So that'll be your opportunity to kind of publicly, because you said you're going to drive home with Sean, so you'll be able to kind of mind meld a little bit and recap what you just went through. But that'll be the first time that you will be able to publicly talk about everything.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. That'll be cool.
And I've pretty much got all my guests lined up for the rest of the year. So
awesome.
So yeah, I will say this: I will have someone who is going to be another vendor at the show, so it'll be a similar level of experience, I guess, to some point, to some extent, anyway.
Perfect. So I look forward to hearing, because that's going to be enjoyable for me too, is hearing the recaps, not only of LegionsCon, but also, I want to hear what people think about the new wave and stuff. So in the aftermath of the show, it's enjoyable for me as well to tune into that stuff and hear it.
Cool. I know Dooch wants to try to do an off-world episode somewhere in that week with Sean and I telling him all about LegionsCon. So I don't know if that'll come out first. I don't know how fast he gets those edited and up, but so yeah, like the guys from the My Office Is Gonna Kill Me after PowerCon, they talked about it for like 4 or 5 things they did. I'm sure I'll be doing it, but I don't think I'll get burned out on it. I'm too green on all of this to burn out yet, I think.
Well, hey, I've been in it since day one, and I'm not even close to burnt out, so there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I see a lot more mayo being discussed over there, so I think that's a clear sign that this has gone on too long.
Okay.
That no one's bringing up some real questions. So,
well, I will say, if anyone has any additional questions, my show this Wednesday, Mythic Conversations, 7:30 on my YouTube channel. That'll be my last opportunity before Mythic Weekend, because obviously, the day before, the Wednesday before, I'll be in the studio kicking off the weekend like we did last year. But on my show this week, I had to figure out who I wanted to bring on to talk about it one last time to get ready for it. So, of course, I had to bring in the Alpha. So Lord Steven and I will be talking on my show this Wednesday. If you have any additional questions, tune into that and ask them there. I'll be happy to answer them.
Outstanding. All right. Well, Jeremy, thank you very much for joining me on the shelf tonight. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Can't wait to see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you. I
Um,
appreciate it.
and if you hold on one sec, I'll say a quick goodbye, and then I'll catch up with you before we go.
Bye, everyone.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I had a lot of fun. A lot of comments over here. I will check out later. Wasn't for lack of interest. Just had a lot of fun stuff to talk about tonight. So, yeah, tune in to Mythic Conversations this coming Wednesday with Jeremy and Stephen, the Alpha, who is the Omega before LegionsCon. I don't know. I'm getting tired. I'm starting to run out of things to say. So lots on my mind. Thank you all for joining me here tonight, and we'll see you guys in the Cabal online, Instagram, wherever you are. And for those of you that are making it to Intern and LegionsCon, I will see you guys there. I'll be back with a new Mythic Minute in the Cabal Thursday night with some more stuff that I will have at my table. And until then, what's on your shelf?